What's up? We got Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 1, Pilot, Part 1. So, we are starting Legends of Tomorrow, finally. After, 120 episodes, have to check the list. Yeah, we're finally starting Legends of Tomorrow, after all this time. So, this episode starts off with a look at 2166. Wow, that's years. Like a billion, like a long time. And we see Vandal Savage. Yeah, Vandal Savage is, yeah. And you guys may be thinking, that guy's supposed to be dead. Green Arrow and Flash killed him. But, yeah. So then we see him go, he kills the mom, then kills the son. And then we see a guy say about how the Vandal Savage is more evil than any evil dictator in the world's history. And yeah, wow. Every Vandal Savage is more evil than every evil dictator in the world's history. Then so he's like, hey, just give him a chance to defeat Savage. So let me see Gideon, now different version, played by Amy Louise Pemberton, or Amy Pemberton as she was, and she's like, hey, we need to go to 2016 or 2022 as the time of this recording, and find a team. So the first member on the recruit is Ugg Ray, and we see him with the voice of our boy Oliver Queen defeating a bad guy. Yeah. So he's like, I'm not one of your adversaries, and flashes him. So then we see my TV child, Sarah Lance, and yeah, she is my TV child. She is great. I love Katie Watts. She's my TV child, and we see my TV child, Sarah Lance, and she's in a bar drinking when this guy yells at her, and she throws her cup at him, breaking on his head, and then he's like, Miss Len, I've always wanted to meet you, and blasts her too. So then we see Stein and Jax in the most terrible looking Firestorm suit I've ever seen. Yeah, I have a problem with the Firestorm suit they chose for this show. It is just so bad. It looks so terrible. It's like they took Firestorm from Ben 10 and mixed it with the Firestorm emblem and made this thing right here. It's just so bad. And Stein's like saying, why don't you follow his directions? And Jax is like, why aren't you teaching him like he's a snot-nosed undergrad? And he blasts him. And then we see Kendra and Carter. Remember them from the Flash and Arrow crossover? And they're defeating a bad guy, and Kendra's like, hey, you need to control your rings. And she's like, a few months ago, she was a barista, and Rip blasts them saying, have you ever heard of couples counseling? It's very popular in this century. And then we hear Gideon saying, this must be an error. Mick, Rory, and Leonard Snart are a bunch of criminals. And he's like, that's no Gideon. Yeah, Michael Scofield and Link the Singsborough. How do you feel about that? But then they get blind, and then they all end up on a roof together. They all end up on a roof together, and they all end up on a roof together, and he's like, stop, hey Stein, what are you doing here? And he's like, same to you, and he's like, yeah, we see all of them, and he's like, his name is Rip Hunter from the future, and he's like, nice to meet you, Rip. And he's like, we need to team up to stop Vandal Savage, and Kendra's like, hold up a minute. The Green Arrow and Flash helped them do it, and he's helped them defeat Vandal Savage. And he's like, did you actually see him die? Because he could actually be resurrected from one cell point in history. So Vandal Savage isn't dead, everybody. But what was the? But that doesn't. But what was up with the? What was up with the Arrow ending where Malcolm Merlyn was putting the dust of Vandal Savage into a box that's never going to be mentioned again? Okay, you're just going to forget about it? Okay. So, yeah. So he's like, why? Mike's like, why do we need to... I don't care about defeating this Vandal. And he's like, Vandal. That was kind of funny. Yeah. And he's like, why would we... And they're like, why would we help you? And he's like, in the future, you're not considered heroes. You're considered legends. So yeah, so then we see Ray talking with Oliver. Ray. That's probably gonna be my whole feelings of the entire show. Ray. And we see him talking, because I don't like Ray. And we see him talking. We see him talking with Oliver and saying about how Rip Puncher's and he's like, that's a team that consists of Lesnar and Mick Rory. So what do you know about Captain Hunter? And he's like, what I know is that he died, or the world thought he did, and now he gets a chance to help people. So then we see Kendra and Carter, and they're arguing as a couple do about how they've been killed 206 times, and Kendra's like, I'm not trying to make it 207. And he's like, the Shara I know would never back away from this type of challenge. So yeah, so they then just throw out their wings and I guess fight. So then we see Sarah, and she's training with Laurel. Yeah, and yeah, Laurel's in this crossover for like this one scene. So yeah, so Laurel's in this like fight for like one scene. She's like, she remembers when she wanted to go to sleepaway camp, and she's like, this is a little different. So yeah, so she's like, yeah, she's thinking of not going, and she's still trying to pick up the pieces of what happened to her during the Lazarus Pit fiasco. And she's like, when she died, she figured out how to channel her grief by becoming the Black Canary, by becoming Sarah. So Sarah needs to she shouldn't fight, but she was like, I fought a different way. As the canary was fought a different way, and she's like, don't be the canary, be a hero in the light, be the white canary now. And then she's like, hey, I got a new suit for you. And she's like, where'd you get this? And she's like, Cisco helped her. Because Cisco helps everybody. That should be a slogan. Cisco helps everybody make suits and layers. Because he does everything. Because basically Cisco's, if they have a new layer, Cisco did it. If they have a new suit, Cisco did it. Remember when that didn't happen before Cisco and they just made the suits on their own? Now when they ever need a new suit, Cisco just has it there waiting for them. Okay, show. So yeah, so he's like, where's the mask? She's like, where's the mask? And she's like, you don't need it anymore. You're done fighting in the darkness. How would a mask look on that costume? A white mask with a white suit? And she also doesn't need the wig anymore. It's gone. Bye-bye wig. She just gets to use her regular hair now, which is also good. So yeah, so then we see Jefferson, and he's like, boy, I want to go, and blah blah blah. And then Stein. So then we see Jefferson, and then we see Jefferson and Stein, and Jefferson's like, oh, I want to go, and Stein's like, oh, you don't have a choice. And he's like to his solo adventure by himself. And he's like, knock yourself out. And she's like, you just took the words out of my mouth. And Stein gets knocked out, and then Jefferson gets knocked out. So then we see Mick, aka Lincoln Burrows, and Snart, aka Michael Schofield. And That's like making Prison Break jokes. So there's this show. So yeah, so then though, so he's like, and he's like, we don't need to be heroes. We can just stop Savage. So he's like, if you're in, I'm in. So yeah, or something like that, whatever they say. So then they actually go, and I say then they go when they don't go anywhere. Actually go. Stein drives up with a knocked out Jax in his car. Yeah. So he's like, this is the Wave Rider. He's had her for decades. So then they meet Gideon again, played by a different version, and she's like, yeah. So then they have to go to the 70s to get Aldous Boardman, since he knows much about Savage. Remember, he's the guy. They're doing a lot of crossover referencing from Legends of Yesterday. So yeah. So anyway, so they decide to, yeah. But then Jax wakes up and he's like, I want. And he's like, you drugged him. And he's like, it was the only way for you to go. And he's like, get him off of this thing. He's like, so yeah, so he's like, I can't believe you drugged him, man. And like Kendra. So Kendra, Ray, Stein, Kendra, and Carter and Rip will go to meet Aldous Boardman. He's like, are you coming? And he's like, you really want to hang out with these people? And like, they didn't drug him. So yeah, there's also some weird thing of Ray was taught by Stein at some point, but Stein pretends not to remember at all. Yeah, that's a plot point where Ray keeps mentioning about how Stein knew about him, or wasn't his. Ray keeps mentioning about how Ray knows Stein because Stein was in the class, but Stein keeps saying he doesn't know him. That's a thing that will come back later, but yeah. So they meet Aldous Boardman, and Aldous Boardman revealed that he knew that Kendra and Carter in their previous life told him about Vandal Savage because he's actually the son of Kendra and Carter in their previous life, Anita and Aldous Boardman. I think that's what he said. He is Kendra and Carter had, in their previous life, they had a son at the start of before the start of World War. I think that's what he said. So yeah, so Jackson's trying. Reveals that Savage was the one that told one of the World War One people to start World War One. Yeah. So yeah. So Jax is trying to command Gideon and take him home, and Gideon's like, Mr. Hunter told me you would do this. But then they get attacked. Well, he's like, you are our computer and you have to do what he said. So they get attacked, and while that's happening, Sarah in her white canary costume, which looks great, by the way. I agree. It doesn't need the mask, because the mask will look bad. Like the other suit that I think looks terrible, but the white canary suit is great. But anyway, we got the suit. So yeah, so Kronos attack, and Kara's hitting. She's hitting. Sarah's hitting on the guy's girlfriend, and she like attacks her, but she breaks his arm and battle. But then they ram Kronos with the car, and he's like, well, we get after a lot of drinks, you decided to pick up a fight with Boba Fett. I love Snyder. And yeah, but Aldous is attacking the Crossfire and sadly dies. Sadly dies. And he reveals to them that he's not a Time Master, and their effects on time might mean nothing, and there are no legends. But with this, Sarah's like, that means we got it. But with this, they get a chance to build their own fate. to build their own fate. And they decide they don't care about not being legends. They'll help him stop Savage. So then we see Savage, and he's with a nuke. So anyway, that was the first episode. It was great. I love that my TV child Sarah Lance gets her time to shine because before she was just an Arrow guest star, but now she was a bit of a main character. But now she's a full main character. So that's what you gotta love about this show. But yeah, but anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time for more Legends of Tomorrow. I have to come up with a better one because you have this, and I have this, and I have this. But for this one, I just come up with this. Yeah, I need a better one.